Well, for more on this, I'm joined by Klaus Larres. He's a professor of history and international affairs at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Welcome back to the program, Professor.
Hello. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. So, it's taken a lot of back and forth, but the EU leaders have finally reached consensus, banning about 2/3 now of Russian energy imports. Does this go far enough?
Well, it's quite a success considering that they were wrangling about that six sanctions packet for the last 4 weeks. So it's not what they had in mind originally, but they got all the countries united one position. Hungary is the outlier, as your reporter said, but all the other countries decided to ban oil imports from Russia via tanker, and that is, a success. Hungary managed to insist that the pipeline where it gets its oil from Russia will not be sanctioned. But other countries like Czech Republic, Slovakia and Germany also get oil through that pipeline. And they are expected to actually not accept that oil and sanction that oil as well. An exception has only been made for Hungary. And considering that otherwise unity would not be possible, I would say it's a relative success.
How big of a hit will this be for Russia? Because before this, I believe something around the ballpark of $850 million flowing into Russia every day for its energy. So how much will this have an impact on its revenues?
Yes, and that is what concerned and annoyed the European countries, because they were actually indirectly financing the Russian war effort by buying oil and also coal and gas from Russia. By banning 2/3 of that oil coming into the European Union, they will hit Russia quite significantly. Of course, that will only transpire after a few weeks, after a few months, not immediately. But it will make a difference for Russia. Russia will look around for alternative countries to sell the money to. They have the advantage that they offer their oil at a discount price, so it's cheaper than the normal oil you get in the world markets. And a lot of countries will be interested for that reason to buy Russian oil. But if the European Union countries largely are not buying any oil anymore from Russia, that will be a significant blow to Moscow.
Professor, the fight as we know it looks so different now from it did when it started. The initial Ukrainian resistance has really waned in recent weeks. Are they finally being overpowered by the sheer stamina and force of Russia's military might?
To some extent, yes. Russia is having quite a success, a military success in Luhansk and Donetsk and in the entire Donbas area. The Ukrainians have actually managed to take back some cities, some little towns in the southeastern part of Ukraine, so they are not yet vanquished. But of course, they find it very difficult to resist the Russian onslaught. Russia has more military equipment. They also have a larger pool of soldiers to draw from. However, what is the huge difference is, of course, that Ukraine is supplied by Western countries with heavy equipment, and also, and perhaps above all, that the motivation of the Ukrainian forces, the Ukrainian people, is much higher than the motivation of Russian conscripts. Some of them have mutinied, some of them don't know why they are there and why they are fighting, and Russia has lost apparently over 30,000 soldiers already and will find it difficult to replenish its forces with new conscripts and new soldiers. So I would say at the moment it looks that Russia has the upper hand, but that doesn't mean that that will be a permanent situation. The war is by no means finished, and I think what we are going to see for the next few weeks and months, perhaps unfortunately, might be a stalemate, where sometimes the Russians will have the upper hand and sometimes the Ukrainians will have the upper hand, where no one side can have a decisive victory and a decisive decision regarding the war.
It certainly felt like stalemate over the past few weeks, hasn't it? Now, Moscow says its top priority is to take all of the Donbas right now. What will the loss of that eastern region of Ukraine mean for this overall conflict, would you say?
It means a devastating blow to Ukraine because it's the industrial heartland of Ukraine. It's largely the Black Sea region, and losing all these ports, perhaps including Odessa in the long run, to Russia will make Ukraine a landlocked country, and it will lose a lot of economic lifelines to the outside world, even after the war should be finished, if that continues to be the situation. That will be an economic blow to Ukraine, not to speak, of course, a nationalistic blow, a military blow. Whether that will be the end game, we don't know. But we also don't know whether Putin, after having conquered the Donbas region, will sue for peace and say that he has achieved his goals and now there can be a peace settlement. The Ukrainians are unlikely to accept such a peace settlement on that basis, because they would have lost quite a significant part of their country. And they apparently do not want that. And the West doesn't want that either, because if Russia wins a war, what kind of signal would that give to any other country, any other dictator or autocrat around the world, that you can win by invading another country, that you get your way? And that is, of course, not the lesson we should all draw from that, that war.
Klaus Larres is a professor at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. A pleasure as always. Thank you.
Thank you.